Yes, I believe. You say,
I believe that you are able to do exceedingly abundantly, far above all I could ask or think.
I am so excited because the Step Out TV shows are back live on T2I TV. And for those who don't know, Step Out is a series of interviews and motivational segments designed to bring the best out of you and your business. Therefore, we have the following TV programs. Our first TV program, which is our flagship program, dubbed Step Out with Oscar Bimpong, is designed to interview consultants, experts, talented people, and those doing exceptionally well in their communities. The second one is Step Out SME Focus. This is where we interview business owners and showcase their products and services. The third one is Step Out Youth Impact Zone. This is where we interview young people succeeding against all odds to serve as an inspiration to other young people. And the last one is Step Out Authors Corner. And this is where we interview authors to share what their book is about to the world. Join us every week at 7 p.m. GMT. Like T2I TV on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel. To advertise or for further information, do WhatsApp +44 759 1152 983 or +233 55 580 3924 or email info@traintoinspire.com. T2I TV. We engage, educate, enlighten, and empower.
Welcome to another exciting edition of the Step Out with Oscar Bimpong show. And as usual, today is another powerful day where we are here to discuss pertinent topics that is meant to inspire you and cause you to succeed in life. It's a powerful, powerful segment that we're going to have. And I believe that you are going to really enjoy today's discussion. And I have a very powerful guest here. But before I go, I would like to really talk to you about some of the sponsors of today's program. Now, this program is sponsored by Train to Inspire Consultancy. Train to Inspire Consultancy is your business training and consulting firm that is for all your business startup, business development, and also helping you to strategically position yourself in the marketplace. Also, ALS Global Shipping and Logistics, your trusted import and export company based in Accra. ALS says if you are stranded at the airport, call them and they will sort you out. Also, ZPay Ghana Limited, your remittance and mobile money company based in Ghana. And they have launched their USSD code for mobile money. And that is *270#. And they are saying that join the Freedom Family. That is, they are bringing a difference to the mobile money market in Ghana. Also, Kudu Business Support, your web and graphic design, app development, and for all your social media management, contact Kudu Support. They will be there to support you. If you want to do any artwork, if you want to design your website, whatever you want to do when it comes to those areas, contact Kudu Support. Then Wheel for Sure. Wheel for Sure is your car leasing company for every credit. Wheel for Sure says it doesn't matter your credit. You will walk out of the garage with the car of your choice. For you to contact them, quote T2I 2020 because they are going to look after you in a special way. Now, for all these sponsors, their numbers are scrolling on the screen. Take their numbers and call them. I always say this, that if you tell them you got the number from T2I TV UK, you are more likely to get a good deal. Now, straight to business. Who do I have on the hot seat? I have known this woman for some time now. She's a very marvelous woman, doing exceptionally well in the marketplace as an executive. You name it. I call her the woman of United Nations because there is a lot that she is doing with her life. And who is this person that I'm talking about? She is an NHS management executive. He is a CEO and elected Labour councillor in the UK and an advocate for how single parents can live a full-blown life. She is in the person of Fatima Kamara. Please welcome to Step Out with Oscar Bimpo, and you are live on T2I TV.
Hi, Oscar. Good evening. How are you doing? When you introduce me like that, I have to think, especially about the journey I've had as a single parent, and I have to think sometimes, is that me? Is that me they're talking about? But you know, I'm really happy to be on air with you this evening. Sorry about last week. We tried all we could and things never happened, but I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today, but also to raise awareness about issues, life issues, and how we can support each other, learn from each other, but also to share with you my own personal story. So I'm really excited to be on here with you, Oscar. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I'm also happy to have you. At long last, we are here. And that is the most important thing. Yes. Yes. So how has your day been?
My day has been good. It's been fantastic. It's been really good. So woke up early, had the privilege of having breakfast in bed. So our son made us breakfast in bed, just to say thank you, because I drove him to his new university yesterday, and it was a long drive. So started off on that note, which was really positive, and just kind of basic housework and house stuff, and then went out and then came back in and got to myself mentally prepped for your interview. You know, my better half supported me in that sort of vein. He was like, you know, you have to get yourself ready, mentally ready. It's a topic I can talk about forever. But yeah, so my day has been very good, and I was looking forward to this as well.
I think you are going to make a lot of ladies watching this very jealous for you having breakfast in bed, isn't it?
Oh, it starts from the beginning. It starts from the beginning.
Exactly. Now let's go straight to business. Who is Fatima Kamara that I missed in my introduction?
Okay, who is Fatima Kamara? So I'll give you a bit of a background. I think before I can say anything about myself, I have to go back to my beginnings. So my beginning is, I'm the oldest or eldest of five. My parents have 5 children. Was born and raised in Sierra Leone until I was age 15. I was raised in a home where my mother was very firm. She wanted the best for all of us. So she was the firmer of both of my parents, who are still together. So she was a no-nonsense person. You can't really come and give excuses or anything like that to her. She would love upon you, but she would give you the stuff as you need it and as you desire, whether you desire it or not. So that was my background until age 15, when I left Sierra Leone for the UK, and I've been in the UK since then. My formative years were always very interesting, because growing up, my mother, as the eldest, my mother always gave me a sense of responsibility that, you know, these are your siblings, you have to make sure that you set the example for them. These are your siblings, you have to make sure you look out for them. These are your siblings, you always have to make sure that you set the right example. You always are there. You hold your own, so to speak, because she always believed that my siblings were looking up to me in a way, in terms of setting the example and how their life will pan out, which I don't think was right. because obviously in a typical African home, that's what it is, right? So I had to step up to the occasion. There were times where I would say to my mom that, but I'm not their mother. And you said, yeah, you're not their mother, but you have to set the example. So that's me in a nutshell. And I'm very close to all of my siblings. I'm the only one now in the UK, but all of them in the US. And my background has been, I was supposed to go to the US and be with the rest of my family, but I stayed here. I started dating my son's dad, who's my first.
I will come to that. I will come to that.
Ever boyfriend, and life
I will
happened.
come to that. I will come to that. So let's hold it there. Yes, I don't want you to jump the ship. Now, our topic for discussion is the mindset of a single parent.
Mhm.
And you being a single parent, you've been there raising a boy of your own to an age where the boy is about to enter into university, and you have instilled in him what two people can do. You've been able to achieve it. Now, we are not here to say single parenting is the best, but we are here to say that if you are a single parent, then you can be able to do it and achieve your goals as well as you can also remarry. But this is where you come in, because you have been there, and at the moment you are still dating. So it means that you have moved from being a single parent to, I would say, a double parent, in my own personal opinion. Yes. So let me go straight to business. Did you experience single parenting with your parents growing up?
No, I didn't, Oscar. My parents are still together, married. And so I didn't. Growing up, my parents were my first example. They always say, your household, wherever you are, your first 7 years or your informative years of a child's life. So I never experienced that. So in a way, for me, having gone through what I went through and single parenting on my own was a bit of a shock to the system. So I never experienced that.
Wow. So somebody will say, so you didn't experience that. So experiencing living your life as a single parent can be a challenge. Now, let me start from the basics. How was life like when you started dating the man that you really separated from? How was life initially when you met? How was life?
Are you asking me when we started dating before we got married? Is that what you're asking?
All together till the time things started getting a bit different where you broke up. How was life like in terms of relationship?
I want to start off with this, and I want to make it very clear. This is my story. We have to own our own stories. And I know there are a lot of people listening and people who will listen to this after. Everyone has their own story. But in the main, when we're talking about single parent, it can be a woman, a single father. It can be also a single mother. So I just wanted to make that clear, because also we've got people who are single parenting, who are dads, and also who are mothers as well. But in the main, it's actually the woman that actually has the child naturally staying with them for a whole amount of time while they're caring for the child. So when I met my ex-husband when I was aged 15. We met age 15, and it was just, we were all growing up and everything else. Someone introduced him to me, and then we started dating and all of that. And for me, one thing that was very important was I was one of those who, when I go into a relationship, I'm always very focused on that relationship. I'm not looking here or there. I'm not trying to, is this going to work? If it doesn't work, then there's somebody else there waiting and all of that stuff. So it was a very serious relationship. We went on, I went to sixth form, he did the same. And then he went on to university, and then we got engaged. During that time, I would say we were both very young, even though he was older than me, a few years older than me. We were both very young, and my sort of excuse is probably we were not actually even ready to be in a relationship, but we were so serious with each other that, we were both very young. The relationship was fine. There are a couple of times where there'll be glitches with, arguments and things like that. We'll get it resolved. And I felt at the time, this is the person that I wanted to be with. So even though there were some signs that I just felt, this is the person that I would like to spend my life and my time with. So we got married, and before we got married, I could actually sense that, there were kind of things that were not just right. But, sometimes we all make excuses for people. We actually say, well, it's because of this, or because you said this, or because that happened, and all of that. And then we got married, and then we had our son. So that's where we're at. So we had our son, and it was, I think in the beginning it was all nice and sweet sailing and everything else. I would say, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that, there was a bit of a temperament, in terms of, I'm the kind of person, I would always like to keep the peace. As in, I don't want to upset the apple cart. I'd rather just go with the flow and all of that. But that didn't kind of help. So, inevitably we had our son, we had got married and everything else. And I decided at the time that I wouldn't want our son to grow up in that sort of environment, because obviously I wouldn't want him seeing us arguing and fighting and bickering and all of that. I thought to myself, it's better to have two happy parents apart than having two happy parents together and just trying to keep face and show face for people when you know that deep down you're not happy and things are not working the right way.
So how long did you keep up to this? Because sometimes some people give up too soon, some people hold on to a certain level, and some stay. So how long were you able to keep this?
If I say to you, we started dating age 15, 16, and we got divorced when our son was we got separated when my son was about 2 years old, and then tried to patch things up. So how long? When we were dating, as obviously we're all coming from different backgrounds, different ways of doing things, different ways of reacting. And sometimes we make excuses for people, right? So I'd kept the relationship going because, I felt comfortable. He was a nice person. We were nice to each other. And everyone was saying, oh, you get on so well. And so I kept making excuses that, it's okay, he probably reacted this way because I asked this, or because this happened. We're always trying to make excuses, right? So I kept making excuses for him. And there are times, even before we got married, there were times where I'd said to him, I'm really tired of this. I really just can't go on anymore because it's getting too much for me. So we broke up a couple of times, 2 or 3 times before we got married. And then there was even one time before we finally even got married, we had a date set and everything. And in the end, I just had to say, no, I really cannot go ahead with it. But actually, I thought about it and I thought, he's a nice person, we can do things together. We're both young, probably we just communicate differently, or we just do things differently. And eventually when all of this stuff, one thing I would say, because I'm an extroverted introvert. So I tend not to tell people about my personal stuff, because I don't think, the minute you start explaining to people certain things, everybody has their own opinion, but that's not what they would do, So I kept it that way until we had our son. And then in the end, I just, we separated. He wanted to come back. We tried a few times and it wasn't working. And then in the end, I just applied for a divorce, and that's it, really. So that's how long I kept it going on for, because I wasn't one to chuck in the towel. I wasn't one to just give up like that, because I knew once I had said, this is it, that is it. There's no going back for me, because, I think mutual parenting or co-parenting is a lot better. You separate the sexual relationship side of it and just look at the good for the child, and that's it.
Can you ever thought one time that some of the fault was also coming from you?
I think, I always want to be when the other person is not there to explain their own side of things, I always want to be neutral. I think the point is, he had come from a background where he, from a single parent background, because I know when the times when we talked about several things, we sat down to talk about things, he was like, oh, I don't know why I did this, blah, 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 and all of that. But the thing is, you can't give what you don't have, right? Sometimes we really cannot give what we don't have. So there are times where I was a bit short because I felt this is just taking too much of my energy and my time. I wanted things to be a certain way and he was going a different way. And I take responsibility for some of it in terms of, sometimes when people say, but what happened? And they always want to blame the other person. It's not about the other person. It's actually about ourselves. What went wrong? And sometimes when you say, well, what went wrong? It's not a bad thing. It's about what do you evaluate? What part did you play, whether rightfully or wrongfully, in actually encouraging that behavior, especially when it's either emotional or physical abuse, which is not right.
Yes, but I would like you to tell people that are watching us, for me, an abusive marriage is a no-go area for me.
Thank you.
So when it's an abusive marriage, then it means that sometimes you might never know what might happen at the end.
Yeah.
It might lead to a disastrous situation where we can even lose one party. That one I don't encourage. So that one, if you want to bring an abrupt end to it, that is fine. Now, for how long should people hold on to relationships, thinking that it is going to be well, in your own estimation, in your own understanding? How long should people hold on to relationships?
I think, first of all, when we talk about abuse, I'll just start it from the top. Most times we think abuse is only about the physical side of it. The physical side, abuse is abuse, whether physical or emotional or psychological, it is abuse. Okay, with the physical side, like yourself, there's some people who would say, I really don't want to get involved because it's physical abuse and stuff like that. It's not only about that, because the physical side, if someone hits you and stuff like that, the wounds will heal. But sometimes the words stay longer than the wounds. So emotional abuse is even more serious than physical abuse. Do you know what I mean? So, but abuse is abuse. So in terms of holding on, I felt, for me, I was trying to hold on because of our son, okay? I was trying to hold on because, like I said, it's not something I've experienced. It's not something I've lived in. It's not something that I even felt comfortable explaining to my own parents, because I felt like a failure. I felt like a failure because I'm not saying I'm from the perfect family. There's no such thing as a perfect family anyway, but I know the example that I saw within my mom and my dad. So it was something that I aspired to and something that I looked up to. That was a big deal for me. So even explaining to them was a big issue. When I initially explained it to them, my mother would tell you, she'd say, oh, this is how, you just have to keep it going, see how things are and all of that. And in terms of holding things together, how long can people hold things together? I think each to their own. I think if you are compromised anyway, whether with any sort of abuse, it's something that you need to take a view. Really, you need to take a view, because there's a saying, love doesn't hurt.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Love doesn't hurt. It's not supposed to hurt, right? You can find differences, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. But that sounds very interesting. Now, how does divorce really impact one's life? Now, let me give a typical example from what you have said. You said your partner wanted to come back, isn't it? After the divorce. Meaning that, do you have to give a second chance? And on what basis do you have to give a second chance?
Okay, so let me tell you, like I said to you, for me, I can understand when people say because of the children, right? But there's one thing I always say, because I only talk from a point of knowing and something that I've experienced. That's where how I can only speak my truth, and that's where I can relate very, very candidly. So when a partner wants to come, for me, I actually, let's start from there. So for me, I actually felt that, so when you break up, or when there's a situation or a circumstance that arises, you're hoping for the next time that there would not be a repeat of that, right?
Yes.
You're hoping the best, you've discussed about it, it's not going to happen. But then when there's a repeat and even an upscale of the repeat, you kind of start to think, so what is going on here? Does this person even take, this relationship seriously? You start to question a lot of things. So having someone wanting to come back to you after they've left doesn't mean it's a good thing, right? You just have to know what you want. For me, I tried, and I know, like I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, and whenever I think about it, I know I tried my level best, right? So I know with what I had at the time, I tried my level best. And that doesn't mean that because I wanted my son to be in a home where he lived with his mom and dad, meant that I had to put him at risk with the potential that anything can happen or there has to be a situation. So if someone wants to come back, you have to look at the plus and minuses of everything. You really have to sit down and think, is this worth them coming back? I tried it, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, because we were married. Like I said, I was trying to see what I could do and maybe believing and trusting and thinking maybe next time it would be different, right? We all hope for the best. But when the next time and the next time and the next time, and then you just there's something called mental fatigue. You just get tired of the same thing, an upskill of the same thing. So I think if anyone is going through that situation and they think, should I go back because of the children or because of the child? I don't have that sort of thing where I think, okay, it's not single parenting is not an easy road, to say the least. I don't want to belittle it. I don't want to say it's just as easy. No, it's a really tight rope. So we need to not really just say, oh, it's okay, I can do it on my own. It's not an easy journey at all. And it's not for the faint-hearted. But there are times where you have to draw the line and say, is this worth it? And do I need to keep repeating the same situations or the same issues over and over again?
Wow, is this worth it? That's one of the questions you have to ask yourself before you give in for a second chance. Now, if you are watching us for the first time, we want to encourage you to share this page, like our page, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is a powerful educational platform for Africans and those in diaspora. I have always said this, that our continent is being bombarded with entertainment, sports, and politics, to the detriment of education. These are the few educational platforms that we are trying to build. Let us all help to build this platform. So I will encourage each and everyone that is watching us to help share this for somebody to listen to this powerful topic spearheaded by Fatima Kamara. And Fatima, trust me, I'm really enjoying the discussion. Now, the impact of divorce. You personally, how did it impact your life, both positively and negatively?
Okay, so the impact of a divorce. What I'll say to you is this. Let me, first of all, I'd like to say, when we're talking about single parent, let me just put something into context, Oscar. Single parent arises for various reasons, okay? And then I'll answer your question. Number one of those is just a single people come together, they have a child, they're not married, they've never been married, or it's just, they've had a child and they have to look after the child jointly or on their own. Secondly, it can be either, a marriage, like in my case, a marriage that's gone pear-shaped and you end up having a divorce. Thirdly, it can be where, the world is changing. We live in a very transient world, a mobile population. People choose that they don't need a man, they don't need a wife, they don't need a husband, they don't need anyone. They're just going to adopt a child and they become inadvertently a single parent. And there's the fourth one that I call the married single. There are a lot of people who are in marriages that they're single. They're raising kids on their own with no support. They live in the home with their partner, but they're raising the child on their own. So you're asking me in terms of what are the challenges or the impact that being a single mother dealt with me, when I became a single mother. Now, what I would say, number one, the first thing was I wasn't prepared. There's nothing that you read about, you talk about. I was not prepared, even though I knew on this hand, it was a relationship that I didn't want my son and myself and put myself at risk to be in. But there's the other hand that you felt comfortable. There's something about comfortable, isn't it? Because you feel, okay, at least we've got a child, we're all together, we're in this false pretense family unit. So the impact it had on me, I wasn't prepared at all. I wasn't prepared because, there's the guilt. There can be a lot of guilt because you're thinking, I gave this person all this opportunity and all this chance. Maybe should I have ended it sooner? There's also the extra thinking, the overthinking of how things happened, what you could have done, what I could have done differently. So there's that as well. There's also the grieving process. So grieving is not only about when somebody dies. Grieving can apply to a lot of things in our lives. The grieving process is not linear. It's just something that we go through and we kind of think, okay, there's from the acceptance stage and actually from death to the acceptance stage. And sometimes along the grieving process, people never in relationship accept this is what has happened, which is why you find sometimes, even with mutual parenting and co-parenting, there's a sexual connotation there because they haven't got to a point of acceptance. So I have that as well. And there's the financial worries as well, raising a child on your own. There's the sleepless nights. There is the school runs that you have to think about. There's also the stigma because we live in a society where when someone says a single parent, there's also a negative connotation about single parenting. Some people don't realize how some people have got to the point of being a single parent. We're just box standard in one box and say, oh, this is a single parent. They're very irresponsible. So those are the sort of feelings I was dealing with. And also isolation, because you're thinking, 1 minute people knew you were married, you had a child and you were with this person. And the next minute, how do you explain to them what had happened?
I think that is something that it can be a bit challenging, isn't it?
Very much so.
Yes. And how did you deal with that?
How did I deal with what?
Explaining yourself almost every time to people when you meet them. Because especially before the divorce, you go to parties together, you go to church together. Now you are on your own. So many gatherings, whether it's funeral, whether it's your child's birthday, every time you are together. Now you are alone. And it's like you have to always explain yourself to other people. They did have was it a daunting task on you?
I think for me, when things happen, I have my reaction when things like that happen is, it's like I pull myself in. I pull myself in because I needed to evaluate what has happened. What has happened? What do I need to do to make it right, to make it better? But also, what have I learned from it? Because it's always good to say, oh, this is what he did, this is what she did, and all of that. What have you learned from it going forward? Because remember, I was left with a child who was 18 months going to 2 years, and that I had to look after. But I thought, let me stand still and not explain, because sometimes it's easy, everyone that calls, oh, hello, how are you? You just want to say, oh, he's not here, this is what has happened, and all of that. For me, I didn't have that need to be explaining myself to everyone, because it's not everyone that talks to you has your good interest, your best interest at heart. Honestly, it's not. You can talk to 1,000 people. They can make you feel good. They can make you, oh yeah, you should have done this, you should have done that. But actually, when you look at them, they're not doing what they're telling you to do. So I didn't have the need to start explaining to everyone. It took, to be honest with you, even with my parents, who I'm very close to, and my siblings, it took a bit of time to actually, there were times they'll call and said, oh, where is he? Even when he wasn't at home, I'd say, oh, he's around, and they say, oh, hello to him and all of that. They're even friends, even to date, even though our son is 18, going to be 19, they're friends who I would meet and they'll ask, oh, how is he doing? And I'll say, he's fine. I didn't have the need to explain, because I think sometimes it's not, the people were not there when you came together, when you came to do your stuff, and when life was happening, when you were supporting each other, when, all of that. So I didn't feel like I needed to explain to people, up to now, even our son, I told him age appropriate things, right? But you don't have to explain to everyone, because you don't want to pour, you don't want to pour fuel on a fire, right? You don't want to pour fuel on a fire, because it depends on who you talk to. You get even fed up and wound up. So I didn't, explain to a lot of people. I just went about my normal business. I kept myself. I even retracted in terms of going out and doing things. Yes, I went to church and work and all of the other stuff I had to do, but I kind of really avoided going to places where we used to go or places where I'll be asked about him. So that's how I dealt with it. And it took me a long time, I must admit, to get to that point, to work on myself, to think, okay, now going forward, what do I need to do to kind of not allow those sort of behaviors, but also to know that when to draw the line.
Wow. I think that is a powerful clue for anybody that will be watching us, that if you are in such a situation, I think you don't need to explain yourself to anybody, as Fatima is saying, because when you were getting together, they were probably, even if they were there, they didn't know what happened afterwards. So there is no need for you to explain it yourself, and that is going to add more fire to the whole situation. Now, what typical mindset do you think is being built after divorce that if you are not careful, it can lead to you going down instead of standing up for whether you have got children, your career, or your business?
Okay, so the typical mindset, I would say, typical mindset to get you into readiness for being a single mother or being a single father. I think there's one thing about determination. I think the first thing is about determination, but also that you also have to think, this is what has happened. It's inevitable. The things that have happened, it's happened. I think you acknowledge what has happened. You go through the emotions and the motions of it. But I think it's very important that you don't stay there and stay still. Because sometimes, there are people years down the line, they're still talking about it like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think, having the right people around you, my faith helped me a lot. I wouldn't have done it without that, I must say, but having the right people around you, having a determination that this is where I'm at. I've got a child, whether you've got a child or you've got children or you don't have a child or you're divorced and you find yourself single again, you kind of have to take a check. There's something called a rain check. Take a check and just find out, just look at what happened and how do you move forward. So determination is key. Having the right support is key. And also, when you talk about single parent and divorce, they're also negative and positive. Sometimes people think, you left with a child and you're not doing anything, or the other partner is not pulling their weight, or whatever the situation is. But sometimes there's a positive in terms of your own personal well-being. Because there's one thing that no money, no nothing, money cannot buy your personal well-being and your health, right? So always think about that in mind as well. Have a determination, have the right people around you. Don't look at it, when things go wrong, never look at it as a failure on your part. Acknowledge what's happened, but do not allow it to stop you in your tracks. You keep going. I don't see impossibilities. I have a tunnel vision. If I want something, I'm just going to go straight ahead. And this is where, you come back to the last question you asked about talking to people. People will give you various advices. That's why it's not good to talk to everyone and anyone, because, you're dealing with your own sort of inner turmoil, and then you have to listen to what this person is saying and that person is saying, and how do you kind of marry all of them together? So I think determination, your faith, having the right people, the right support system, and just knowing and acknowledging what has happened and how you move forward.
Now, some people never accept the fact that they are divorced. And there is one word I want to bring on board in this scenario, and that is bitterness. Now, how does bitterness affect the aftermath of divorce? To the extent that some of the parents, whether the man or the woman, can be bitter to the extent that they can even use the children against each other. And this sometimes can bring a lot of confusion and misunderstanding, not between you and your former partner, but even including the children. How do you deal with bitterness?
I think, firstly, if someone has been divorced or a breakdown of a relationship, I think it's a good thing to take a view in terms of where they're at, okay? Because there's some people who might have let go and think, okay, it's fine, I'll deal with it in that way. There are other people who are really quite still bitter about things. If anyone at all gets to that point where, it's a lingering sort of bitterness, then I would say sought professional advice and help. Because, we don't want to talk about counseling and professional advice, but it does help and it does work to unpack some of the issues that people are dealing with. Because, like I said, each case of divorce, when there's a children or when there's kids involved, it's very different. What I don't encourage is using the children as a weapon or a tool. I think, like I was saying to my better half, that at one point in time, whether you were married, whether you decided to adopt, whether you were single, whether you are married, single, there must have been something between you and that other person that you got to a point where you decided to have a child together. So in terms of civility and in keeping the mental well-being of both the parents, but also the children, if they get to a point where they're really bitter, and the other person is not playing part, I think there's something that, you go for mediation or counseling or some sort of intervention. But having said that, I know of people who the other partner doesn't want to play ball at all. What do you do? Mm-hmm. So bitterness, it's a very strong word, because I think sometimes people think they feel hard done by. Yes, they feel hard done by. But I think the most important thing for me in all of this is the children, or is the child. The child is the priority. Always keep the child in the center of everything. The child is the priority at all times. Sometimes you might find the other partner wanting to do things differently, bring certain conversations, or use the blame game and all of that. For me, I always keep to the course. So I'm always talking about the child. We don't have any extra conversation. Not that I'm bitter or anything like that. We don't have any sort of communication that will make him feel a certain way in terms of our relationship, except for our son. And that's what we're dealing with, and that's it. So I think people have to work out where the bitterness is coming from. Also, how do they deal with that bitterness for themselves? Because if they don't, it's inevitable. The children are going to get older. They're going to look for the other parent. Life is going to happen. And how will they now, the other person, whether it's the mother or the father, how will they deal with themselves? So when we say bitterness, I would always say every situation, every breakup, every marriage or whatever's happened has a very different pattern. There's the general patterns, but it has a very, very different situation. So we have to look at them individually, but also what I would say, keep the child at the center of it. If you're not having any reproach from the other person, then, just kind of go with the flow with them. But actually, I think for me, it's about boundaries, because sometimes people get bitter, not because of the divorce or the breakup or anything. If they feel they're being led a certain way in the relationship or in terms of managing the child's well-being, and then things have changed, they can twist easily. So that's why it's very important that we actually are very clear in terms of our communications with our exes, with our baby fathers and baby mothers and all of that, to make sure, because the children are also watching us. The children are watching and they're learning from us. It's not what you tell them, it's what they know and the conversations that you're not having with them.
Now, you made mention of seeking professional advice.
Yes.
From the Black community, especially Africans, do we seek professional advice when it comes to marriage and relationships?
Do you know what? It's not something that is talked about easily. We don't want to seek professional advice because we think that things are going to go away and things are going to get better. And even sometimes when you mention it with people say, oh, I think we need to seek professional advice, it's a big deal. For me, I would say when my marriage was going pear-shaped, I sought professional advice. I did. I said, listen, we've got to this, because I wanted the best for it. It wasn't a measuring tool to say, oh, you've done this and this is not right. No, the minute you start blaming the other person and actually, kind of making them feel a certain way, you've lost the plot. Do you know what I mean? Because you're supposed to be working together. So I sought professional advice a few times. I went to a counselor. It was actually at the church where I attended at the time, but it didn't work. So when there's something that I always say: when I sleep at night, I sleep with ease. Even if I'm thinking of other stuff, one of the stuff that never crosses my mind is, oh, I wish I'd done this, and I wish I'd done that, and I wish I'd done that. And because there's this sort of blame thing as well, as a single parent, you always want to think, oh gosh, what would I have done differently? Maybe I should have done it this way. So in the Black community, it's not something that we talk about, but conversations like this help to normalize things, to say seeking for advice, seeking for help is not a bad thing.
Right. I've got so much comments here. Let me read some comments, then we can continue our discussion. I've got Mataka Patricia says, interesting topic. Then she also says, yes. Then Yamata says, proud of you, my beautiful lady. Wow. Lillian Davis says, very true, love doesn't hurt. Prophet Fitzgerald Johnson says, thank you, Lord, for such a topic. And I have got Gal Starkin says, be proud of yourself. Then Lillian Davis says, be true to yourself. Mataka comes back and says, fact. Quincy Mola says, true. Lillian Davis says, absolutely. Then I've got Donatella Kamara says, you did a very great job, sis. I'm super proud of you. Then I've got Mataka coming back to say, loads of learning. Thanks, Fatima. Quincy Mola says, so true. At one point in time, there was love. Then Lilia Davis says, no, Africans don't seek professional advice. But the last one is a question from Gal Starkin. He says, so how are you managing co-parenting your son and managing your career and personal life?
Okay, so how do I manage in co-parenting? Okay, so from the that's better. Now, from the beginning, when we separated, and obviously my son spent a lot of time with me because he's living with me, right? So how did I manage co-parenting? When he was probably below 13, we used to have weekends. So his dad used to have him twice, 2 weekends in a month, okay? But also, you have to also think that you're dealing with someone else, yes? Sometimes their plans change. Sometimes things don't work out the way it's supposed to work out, but you can't plan properly when you're trying to work with someone else who sometimes cannot be consistent in their sort of ways of doing things, okay? So co-parent, so I decided at one point, I was listening to something a couple of days ago where this lady was saying where, you get to a point, as she's a single mother, you get to a point, I decided in my mind that for my own good and my own sanity, it's not the best thing to do, but I looked at myself, for everything in terms of my son's well-being, getting him from point A to B and everything, 80% or 90%, I just kind of looked at myself. So I'm not expecting from somebody else. If somebody does it, it's fine, because then I manage my expectations, So that's how I manage the co-parenting. So, I used to go to his dad, they used to do stuff together. In terms of managing my career, so when I had my son, I decided, because I used to do a lot of shift work as a nurse. So I qualified as a nurse, I used to do a lot of shift work. I decided at that point that I wasn't going to be doing any shift work. So I left and was only working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I went back and I did a whole different career change where I was only working I worked 4 days from when he was about age 3 till about when he was about age 8. So I was able to, even though I had nannies and stuff like that and au pairs, I was able to be around, to be there for him. In terms of personal life, personal life, it's a juggling act. It really is a juggling act. When you're a single parent, a single dad or single father, or whatever it is, it's a juggling act. So because you're dealing with, a lot of emotions, a lot of things, and you're the only person in the main, where you used to have 2 people living together making certain decisions, you are left making that decision, sometimes on your feet, and you're learning from it. So it's there's no right and wrong, but I had to learn on the job because I'd never experienced it. I was never exposed to it. So that's why I'm really passionate about it. I had to learn on the job, and I had to amend as I went along. Okay, I can't do it this way, I can do it that way, or it's like this, and we have to do that. And it's just learning on the job, really. That's all I can say.
Now you are in a relationship, right?
Of course.
Your partner now has also got children, and you have also got children, right?
Yes.
How are you managing the two?
Well, what can I say? So when you get to a point in your life and you meet a point in your life in a certain age, it's very rare that you meet someone that hasn't got kids. You know, like myself, I've got a son and he's got children as well. It's how we bring together the blended family, you know? First of all, I would say you need to really understand dynamics. It's very important that you understand dynamics, yes? Because for me, you know, how, you know, I've raised, you know, I've lived as a single mother might not be the way my partner wants to, you know, be as a single father with his own children. So as a blended family, we spend time together when the kids are here. We spend time together. You kind of understand, you have to understand, because they've spent a lot of time with their father, do you understand? And my son has spent a lot of time with myself. So you kind of have to have a balance. You have to understand that these children are coming together into a blended nutshell, yes? And you also have to understand that you're not replacing, you know, my better half is not replacing my son's dad. Neither am I replacing the children's mother. We are in a relationship, and we also, for me, you know, we have to work with each other, respect each other, make sure that the children are all looked after, cared for. And when they're together, we watch a movie, we talk about things, we talk about life, you know, I talk about different stuff, and we share sort of what's happening in the children's lives. So I think for me, that is really important. But one thing I would say, it's also understanding the dynamics, but also understanding how, you know, the other partner wants things going forward. And I would want, you know, how I would also want things in terms of blended family going forward as well. So it's very interesting. They're all various different ages. So you have to deal with that as well, where you have an older child and then you have a younger child. But it's I call it's the pick and mix of life.
Yes, yes. And I believe you have gained a lot of experience now that you can, you understand these things better than anybody else, isn't it?
Yes. I have.
Wow.
I think, what can I say? The experience I've gained, like I said, it's about learning on the job. You know, when I was expecting my son, you know, as any parent, you know, the first child that you have, you're so excited, you're looking at books, you're reading this and all of that. As much as those books are very good, there's no book that would tell you like for like what that child is going to be, right? So, you know, you have to learn about the child, you have to put, you know, you have to discipline, you have to love, you have to do so many other things. So in terms of my experience, I wouldn't, to be honest with you, like I said, I was never prepared for the journey, especially as a single mother. But I think that I am really grateful for the journey that it's lent itself to me, to know how to be determined. I think if I wasn't determined and focused, I think it would have been a different ball game altogether, honestly. But I'm grateful and I'm happy that despite what happened, in spite of what has happened, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. My life is very different now, and you know, things have moved on and all of that. But experience is a great teacher.
Experience is the great teacher. Now you have moved from being married, divorced, raised a child on your own to A levels, who I'm told he really did very well in the results, and that is a plus to you. Then now you are back in relationship. What are you going to tell those that have sworn in their hearts that they are never going to get married again?
Okay, so let me just say this. Now, when when my marriage failed and I had my son, like I said, I went into my own shell. There are lots of people who not that I didn't want to see them, I just didn't want, I wanted to focus on me and what I had to do to get myself and my son to a place where we needed to be. So in that vein, I would say to anyone who has been married or been in a relationship and things have gone pear-shaped and they're thinking, no, they're not going to get married. I think there's no right or wrong time to go into a relationship, depending on your age, where you're at, and what's happening in your world. So for me, what I did was I would tell you categorically, except for the amazing man that I'm with, I never had to introduce my son to anyone, because I felt if the relationship doesn't measure up, there's no point for me to be introducing him to this person, to that person, to this person. I think you need to, if they've said they're not going to be dating anymore, I think sometimes it just takes a few years or a couple of years or maybe a year or a few months or a few weeks to get over what has happened. And also just think about, where do they need to be? Is a relationship important for them? Some people, relationships are not important for them because of what they've been through. They're thinking that, they need to learn, they need to get themselves mentally prepared to be able to go into another relationship. Probably that's the point where they're at. And there's no right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? There's no right or wrong, because I feel that sometimes when things don't work out, women or men, they're so quick to jump from one person. They haven't even finished one. They're jumping to the next one and then the next one. Do you understand? So my point is, you cannot get anything from an open wound. If you haven't dealt with your wound and your scars, you're just going to be bleeding in the wrong place. So it's very important that there's no rush. But if they felt that because of what has happened to them, they don't want to date, I would always say to them, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We all react and we all deal with our situations and our circumstances differently. Maybe to their point where they're thinking, well, I don't think I have the energy because of what has happened to them before. But I would say that they shouldn't think that because of what has happened, that that's the end of life. There's a lot more to life and there's a lot more happening out there. So be open to be going out, be open to meet people, take things at a regular pace or a slower pace, but just don't seclude yourself at home thinking, someone else is going to meet me here, or, this is my life and this is the end of life for them. It might be a very difficult situation, but it's not the end of the world.
What are you going to tell anybody that is in a single relationship now? What is that one thing that you are going to tell them that they should hold on to, that is going to be the fundamental principle that is going to help them to thrive and to raise the kind of children they want, and also probably to blend with the career that they really want, so that the children can live a certain lifestyle that they want as well?
So what am I going to say to them? Okay, now, number one, being a single parent is a very, very stressful situation. It's hard work, it's overwhelming, and it's all of that and more. What I would say to them is, number one, never give up on yourself. Because sometimes we feel that life has dealt us a different blow that we were not prepared for, or maybe we saw it coming, but when it happened, it feels like you're in the middle of the motorway and a car just comes and gives you a big whack with something, and you're like, wow, what was that? So don't give up. Most people don't set out to be single parents. They want the best and the good for themselves, but also for their children. I would say seek support and advice for themselves, for yourself. If there's an issue, if there's something they need to deal with, don't be ashamed, because there's this huge thing about self-isolation. People don't want to talk about it. People think, oh gosh, even when, they say, oh, this is your child, and they feel like they shouldn't be talking about it, which is not normal. Do you know what I mean? It's not normal at all. So I think that one thing I would say, don't give up on yourself. Seek the support and advice you need. Make sure that it doesn't matter what's happened in life, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always, doesn't matter how it turns out, doesn't matter how it pans out. Acknowledge how you feel. take care of yourself. That's another thing, because like single parents, single mothers or single fathers tend not to, because they're always on the go. They have money issues, they have drop-off issues, they have childcare issues, they have family issues, they have psychological issues, they have the guilt, they have the shame, they're overcompensating because they want the child to be a certain way and see a certain behavior from both parents, which, you know, you can't control somebody else's behavior, right? So I think that we need to actually acknowledge all of those, but also realize that you can't give up on yourself. Find the support, find the help, and keep pushing, keep pushing. It might not feel like you're doing anything, but at the end of the day, when you look back, you think, wow, how far have I come? So that's all I can say.
Wow. Yes, let me read some few comments, and we will be just be wrapping up this. And Mataka again says, great show. Thank you very much, Mataka. Quincy Lee Mola says, oh yes, you have to be really lucky. Then Fatima Kumba says, blended family. Then Quincy comes again and say, oh yes, was about to say that is understanding. Then I also have Lillian Davis says, good one, pick and mix. Then there is an interesting one from that is Fatima Kamara. He says, OJT, that is learning on the job. And I think we did that one so well. Then Quincy Mola says, it makes you become stronger. Then Mataka comes back and say, well done, Fatima. Then Quincy says, so too. Then Lillian says, very challenging being single parent, but can be very rewarding. Then Mataka says, talk and seek advice from the right people. Then Janet Wright says, well done, sweetie. Great topic and delivery. Mataka says, right, Dinah. Yes, it's been a very interesting discussion, and trust me, I've enjoyed it. After this program, I'm going to really go back and watch it all again and learn some of the tips, because you need to always guard yourself. The fact that somebody has divorced and you are in marriage, good marriage, doesn't mean that tomorrow can be the same. Things happen in this life that sometimes you don't even have comprehension of how it came about. So we need to learn from these things, whether you are still in marriage, whether you are single, about to marry, or you are divorced. Some of these topics are good for you. Now, briefly tell me about your upcoming book and your podcast.
Okay, so by the end of the year, I'm going to launch a book. So it's called No Blame, No Shame, my single mom journey. I kind of chose that topic because most times it's about, we talk about the other partner and we kind of, we're blaming them for this and blaming them for that and blaming. I felt that I need to come from a different perspective. I need to write from my own point of knowing, and just so I can talk to single parents out there and tell them, my own journey, my story, but also tips in there where they can seek and sort advice. So by the end of the year, I'll have that. And I've asked my son to write one of the chapters so you can hear from him in terms of a single, being raised by a single mother, how he finds that and what are his thoughts and all of that. So that will be coming out by the end of the year. It was going to come out next month, but because I had so much stuff going on, I haven't quite finished it, but by the end of the year. So the podcast, God willing, will start next month. I'm hoping for it to start. And I wanted to do a podcast because I believe there's so much that we can share as single parent that can help someone. Because it's not a topic that you meet someone on a daily basis, whatever they're dealing with, that, I can come up to you, say, oh, Oscar, do you know I'm a single parent? This is what's happening. It's not the normal conversation or convo that you normally have, right? So it's just something where people can learn from people who are single parents, whether it's about their finances, whether it's about raising their children, whether the challenges they've been through, how they've overcome, and the situation that they're in. So it's going to be looking at various people across the board, across the piece, sharing information. We're talking for about 30 minutes and then just getting their sort of insight, and also how they've dealt with being a single parent. Because for me, apart from being a daughter, being a fiance, being a mother, being a single parent is something I've lived through for a good part of my years to date. So I feel I am qualified to talk about it. I'm qualified to share my story. I'm not ashamed of it. You know, I didn't ask for it. Life happens. So I'm not going to have a pity party to say this is what has happened and all of that stuff. I'm going to use it. I'm going to encourage and I'm going to empower and I'm going to share whatever I can with people who are going through the same or similar.
Wow, and I'll be looking forward to that, especially your book launch. I will, anywhere am I in the world, I need to come for that book launch because we have to support our Black communities. People that are doing well, we need to give them the support. And I think that is not really being well engineered in our communities. Most of the time, when somebody starts something, we always sit on the fence, folding our arms to see how far they can go, instead of lending our support in our own small way to help push any good vision that can be beneficial to our community. And if you are watching us for the first time, I want to encourage you that go and like our page on Facebook and also on YouTube and help spread this word. We want to build a formidable and powerful platform, not for only Ghanaians or Sierra Leoneans, but for the whole African continent and all of us in diaspora. So we can only do this with your support. That is sharing this for somebody to see this great discussion so that they can also come and like our page and be part of this fraternity. Now, before I go, I want to do a few mentions of our sponsors. This program is sponsored by Train to Inspire Consultancy, your business training and consulting firm that is for your business startup, business development, and helping you to strategically position yourself in the marketplace. Also, ALS Global Shipping and Logistics, that is your trusted import and export company based in Accra. They say if you are stranded at the port, call them and they will sort you out. Also, ZPay Ghana Limited, your remittance and mobile money company based in Ghana. They just launched their USSD code, that is the ZPay mobile money, and it is *270#. Just dial it on your phone and register for mobile money. Then also Kudu Business Support, your web graphic design, app development, and for all your social media management, contact Kudu Business Support. Then Wheel for Sure, that is your car leasing company for every credit. Wheel for Sure says it doesn't matter your credit history. You will walk out of the garage with the car of your choice. So contact Wheel for Sure. They have got a very good package for healthcare assistants and key workers in the UK. When you call them, quote T2I 2020. If you quote T2I 2020, you will get a very good deal because it is coming from T2I TV UK. If you want any of the numbers of our sponsors, they are scrolling on the screen. Pick it up and call them. Also, if you want to sponsor any of our shows, you are welcome to do so. I always say this: if you cannot go to mainstream media, come to us. We are going to support you. And T2I TV, the brain behind this is Train to Inspire Consultancy. We are also a consulting firm. And as your small business, we will support you to grow. And trust me, we are here to grow with you. So we are going, as your sales increases, our dividends is going to increase as well. So just drop us a message on WhatsApp through the numbers that we have, and we'll be there to support you. Also, this platform, if you say we want to go to the whole of Africa, we are now interviewing young people in the whole of Africa. We need more resources. Any form of resource that you can help us to support this platform, you are more than welcome to do so. You can support with your knowledge, you can support with money, you can support with any form of resources that you think that it can help us to grow this platform to where it has to be. Now, Fatima, let me tell you, I've enjoyed this discussion, and all the comments also shows that they have also enjoyed it. Let me give some few comments, then we go. Then Janet Rice said, well done, sweetie, great topic and delivery. Gas Parkin says, well done. Mataka said, wow, can't wait to buy your book. Great job, Fatima. Fatima Umba says, we don't each other enough. That is, we don't help each other enough. Then Mataka says, Oscar for a great show and talking about these issues in our Black communities. Thank you very much, Mataka. And Mataka also said that Oscar, thanks for a great show, especially talking about some of these issues in our communities. And Lillian says, well done, dear Fatima. I think you've got so much fans today because you have really hit the nail right on the head. What is your last word to anybody that is watching us?
Wow, my last word to I think I'll stick to the topic because we're talking about single parents and the mindset of a single parent. My last thing to any single parent out there, mother or a single father, do not, the world has come to an end. There's no shame, there's no blame. You're left with what you're left with in terms of looking after a child. Think about the child's interest and keep pushing and keep pushing. You will come across people who will never understand why you push, but keep pushing and don't give up on yourself. We live in a world where the words single parent or single mother or single father has a negative connotation. We have to put that right. We have to tell our stories. We have to do what we have to do for our children and make sure that you keep doing the best you can with what you have. You cannot keep still. You have to keep pushing and keep doing the amazing job because every single parent is trying to do, in the main, most of them are trying to do the best. So keep doing what you're doing and keep pushing. That would be my last word to every single parent.
Keep doing what you are doing and keep pushing. Now, on Tuesday, I have got a man that is coming on the show that is on the Step Out Youth Impact Zone. And he's going to talk about what young people how young people can prepare for life. Because when you look at COVID-19 now in the UK, the exams results has really brought a lot of confusion from the education sector to students to parents. There is so much chaos. And he's here to address how young people can really prepare for life in every sphere of their life. And trust me, it's going to be an interesting discussion. You don't want to miss this discussion on Tuesday, 7 p.m. GMT, that is Sierra Leone, Ghana time, Nigerian time, and UK 8 p.m. And if you are in the USA Eastern time, it is going to be 3 p.m. Don't miss it. If today is your first time of watching this show, trust me, we come every 3 days in a week. That is on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 7 p.m. GMT. If you miss it, trust me, you have missed out a lot because it is only the level and the caliber of the Fatimas that comes on the show. Those that come to give value and those that at the end of the day, you take something out to build your life. So trust me, it's a wonderful platform. If this is your first time, keep coming back and keep sharing this to the world because we want to grow this platform to a level where all of us are going to benefit. Thanks, Fatima, for your time. When your book is ready, we would like you to come on the show to come and talk about the book. And anytime you feel like there is a topic in your spirit that you want to share, you are more than ready to come on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you and have a blessed weekend. And everyone that took your time to watch us, I say God bless you. See you on Tuesday, God willing, and stay blessed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I believe that you are able to do exceedingly abundantly far above all I could ask or think. Believe, yes, I believe. You say,
I believe that you are able to do exceedingly abundantly far above all I could ask or think.
I am so excited because the Step Out TV shows are back live on T2I TV. And for those who don't know, Step Out is a series of interviews and motivational segments designed to bring the best out of you and your business. Therefore, we have the following TV programs. Our first TV program, which is our flagship program, dubbed Step Out with Oscar Bimpong, is designed to interview consultants, experts, talented people, and those doing exceptionally well in their communities. The second one is Step Out SME Focus. This is where we interview business owners and showcase their products and services. The third one is Step Out Youth Impact Zone. This is where we interview young people succeeding against all odds to serve as an inspiration to other young people. And the last one is Step Out Authors Corner. And this is where we interview authors to share what their book is about to the world. Join us every week at 7 p.m. GMT. Like T2I TV on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel. To advertise or for further information, do WhatsApp +44 759 1152 983 or +233 55 580 3924 or email info@traintoinspire.com. T2I TV. We engage, educate, enlighten, and empower.